Green manure, so like a cover crop essentially. We're using cowpea, buckwheat. There's a whole bunch of others, woolly vetch, other things, even the sunflowers you could use for a cover crop. Basically it's to put something in the ground to cover the ground, because bare soil is perfect place for weeds to grow, and so if you've got a cover crop there, it's something for the weeds to compete against. And this way it's something that we know we can just plough back into the ground without it wanting to go, if we do it in the right time and it doesn't go to seed, it can go back into the ground without reproducing and then it becoming a weed itself. So it's full of nitrogen, just more organic matter going back into the soil, and once again it's food for worms and also holds moisture in the soil. Here in Australia it was like right at the start of spring, which is I guess in September, and as it started to rain and come at, like the last of the frost had happened, and I just went around with a little seeder and just scatter patched it all the way through, and you can see it's grown in the rows as well, but that doesn't matter because it'll get tilled back up. Eventually we won't do any more tilling, but we're still really early days, and I wanted to get as much nutrients in there as possible and keep it light and fluffy, which this being hard compacted soil right at the start, and instead of us bringing in soil to put on top, I did a till, and then we just noticed the difference straight away. Because they used it as a platform to put pot plants on top of, it was quite hard. So it really helped breaking it up, and I think having these roots go down into that as well from the cover crop is really going to help as well, and turn into food for other life in there. And we'll pretty much leave it alone for all the microorganisms to get along and live pretty soundly without disturbing all those stratospheres. Predominantly I think we're seeing cowpea and not buckwheat, and a good nitrogen fixer into the soil. Wasn't too invasive in the way after this, so after I've done this I'm not going to have it everywhere, it'll just die out. So other versions, there might be seed pods and larger elements to get rid of, and I didn't want to keep weeding that back out of the soil, so this should break down really easy. In fact, I think when it gets really hot, I don't know if this would survive anyway, but I could be wrong there, but we'll soon find out. And the same with the buckwheat, as long as I don't leave it go to seed, we should be fine, but around the same time it kind of flowers, which is also good for the bees. But so I did grow them together because we would have one as a higher canopy and one as the lower canopy. It's going to be about 4 to 6 weeks, just depending on weather, and like it doesn't look like it, but this had like a bit of a hailstorm hit it as well, and it's survived really well. So we'll probably wait 4 to 6 weeks, and then it should be up maybe about knee height, and then go for it, till it back in and just leave it alone, probably cover it up after that, and let the worms do their thing and leave it stale. Just let it sit there until we're ready to plant into it. Covering it's going to help because it gives a good cover over the top for worms and everything to live underneath and eat a lot of it up. And I think for it to break down, I'm going to use that as an experiment on some of it, probably this bed, and this bed we'll leave open and see whether just the elements break it down just as quick. So it'll be interesting either way.